Following any GPU launch, it's always interesting to see what various AIB partners bring to the table. While the core performance of the RTX 5060 GPU is already known, the real differentiator between models is design, power delivery, and cooling. This is where a company like INNO3D shines. They have a reputation for delivering no-nonsense, MSRP-based cards that just focus on function over frills, providing a straightforward option for gamers who just want a card that works and works well. So with the INNO3D RTX 5060 Twin X2, we're not just looking at a GPU, but a specific implementation. Can INNO3D's dual-fan design with its compact form factor effectively cool this GPU and maintain a quiet operation? What kind of overclocking headroom does their custom PCB and power delivery offer? And most importantly, does this card represent the best value for money in the 1080p gaming market? We're going to be putting it through its paces today to find out what you're really getting for your money. But before we get into the benchmarks and thermal testing, here's a quick word from this video sponsor.
This sucks. I wish I had an upgrade.
You have summoned the gaming genie.
What is your wish? Better gear? For an upgrade?
Your wish is my command. Zone Elite XL Matte, smooth, comfortable, spill resistant, and the sleek Zone Matte for precision gaming. NZXT Function Elite Mini TKL, magnetic switches, compact and precise. Featuring per-key adjustable actuation with 40 points of sensitivity ranging from 0.6mm to 4mm to fit your individual needs. Lift Elite wireless mouse, lightweight, responsive and ultra-fast. Capsule Elite mic, pro quality audio, crystal clear, every game chat will be flawless. Genie approved upgrades. Make your gaming wishes come true with NZXT. Find out more by clicking the link in the description below. So while the 5060 has been out for a while, I want to go over a few things. With a starting MSRP of just $299 in the US and cards in the UK even hitting as low as £259, the Twin X2 enters the market with a very attractive price point. This isn't just an MSRP in name only. Cards are actually available for this price. While some might be put off with the 8GB of GDDR7 memory, for a first-time builder or a gamer looking to get into PC gaming, this card could be the perfect gateway. It offers all of NVIDIA's features like DLSS 4 and multi-frame generation, which are transformative for 1080p gaming, providing smooth and responsive experiences that was, I guess, once exclusive to higher-end hardware. It's about giving a new generation of gamers an affordable and powerful entry point into the world of PC gaming that we all know and love. This is where INNO3D's design ethos kind of really comes into its own. They're not just offering an affordable price, they're facilitating this perfect entry point with a thoughtfully designed card. The Twin X2 is a compact dual-fan solution that is SFF ready, making it an ideal choice for gamers looking to build in smaller cases or simply just want a more discreet card. It does achieve this without compromising on the fundamental design principles of solid cooling and reliable power delivery, and by focusing on the essentials and getting rid of flashy RGB lighting, it manages to keep the price down, ensuring that gamers are paying for performance and functionality and not for features that, maybe they just don't need. Now, as for the design itself, the card features two large fans housed in a gunmetal coloured shroud. The shroud has a clean, almost industrial look to it, with varied textures that give it a premium look without being ostentatious. This is a design that, we've seen from INNO3D time and time again, and it's a well-known functional formula. There are no flashy gamer aesthetics or unnecessary RGB, just a professional understated look that would be as at home in a high-end gaming PC as it would in a more professional or media-focused rig. It's kind of a design that stands the test of time, prioritising a look that is both modern and functional. And, it's a key part of why INNO3D can consistently deliver cards at such a competitive price point. Now, it is worth noting that the shroud is made, entirely of plastic. For some enthusiasts, this might be a point of contention, but given the card's incredibly competitive price point, this is a conscious design choice that is completely justifiable. The plastic is sturdy and well molded, ensuring that the card does still feel solid in your hand and maintains its structural integrity. It's a prime example of INNO3D's commitment to, as I mentioned, delivering a card that performs where it matters without adding to the cost with premium materials that maybe just don't directly contribute to performance. It's also worth noting that while we are reviewing the standard X2 or Twin X2, Inno3D does offer an overclocked model that will come in at a slightly higher price. This guy, I guess, gives buyers a little extra performance out of the box for a small premium, but what's more is that the OC model is available in an all-white version. This is, in my opinion, a good move by Inno, as it does cater for that growing segment of PC builders who want a clean, minimalist or white-themed design for their rig. But I would have liked to have seen it on the non-OC version as well, because, well, I can't see it actually making that much of a difference in terms of price. Now, moving over to the cooling solution itself, the Twin X2 utilises quite a large pair of axial fans. This is the heart of its cooling performance, and Inno have focused on a functional design over aesthetics. They feature a ring around the outer edge of the blades, which is a design that is crucial for directing that all-important airflow with greater efficiency. This subtle but effective detail does help to increase the static pressure and does help to focus the air directly onto the heatsink, improving cooling performance and ensuring the fans can run at a lower, quieter speed for, well, frankly, longer. You also notice the simple Inno branding on the fan hubs, which just reinforces the card's no-frills performance-first philosophy. There's, again, nothing over the top. Now, one of the key selling points for the Twin X2 is its incredibly compact size. Measuring in at just 250mm long, 116mm tall, and a mere 41mm thick, it occupies a true dual-slot form factor. This makes it, again, an ideal candidate for anyone building a small form factor build. Where many other GPUs require a large open-air case, this card's dimensions mean it can be, well, a snug fit in many popular mini ITX cases, making it a much more accessible choice when looking at getting an RTX 5060. Another thing that becomes immediately apparent when you get your hands on the card is its weight, or rather the lack thereof. Weighing in at a very light 748 grams, the Twin X2 is a far cry from the weighty, overbuilt flagship GPUs that we've seen in recent generations. Because of it being so lightweight, there is no need for a GPU support bracket, and Inno has wisely chosen not to include one. It might seem like a small detail, but again, it's another example of how they're stripping away unnecessary costs to keep the price as competitive as possible. Looking at the top of the card, the same industrial and no-frills design continues, and the simple Inno3D branding is subtly placed, ensuring it doesn't stand out with any lighting or flashy logos. This is an area where the front shroud seamlessly kind of meets the edges of the backplate, and along the seam you can see small openings that expose the heatsink fins and give us a first glimpse of it. This also allows the heat to escape, though I'm not entirely convinced that it will do much, but I guess cuts down on material costs anyway. Flipping the card over, we see a full-length backplate that extends past the PCB, which is a nice touch that adds to the card's overall clean look. It's finished in the same gunmetal grey colour as the front shroud and features angled cutouts in the design that give it a bit of style while also serving a functional purpose. And, well, there's simple Inno3D branding on the backplate, again keeping with the understated design. Now, it is important to note, however, that while a backplate can add structural rigidity and a nice finished look, this one is made of plastic and therefore won't be doing anything in terms of passive heat dissipation, a function that a metal backplate can sometimes offer. However, given the card's incredibly lightweight design and focus on keeping costs down, I'm fine with it being plastic. It's just, well, as you'll find out later, probably not even needed. Finally, when we look at the I/O, we find a standard dual-slot configuration with a well-ventilated design with triangular cutouts to allow for some airflow out of the rear of the case. As for the connectors, we have the typical loadout for an RTX 5060 with 3 DisplayPort connectors and a single HDMI port, allowing for multi-monitor setups. Though, underneath, it is still an RTX 5060, so this is more for desktop tasks and not for multi-monitor gaming. Taking the card apart is a pretty simple task with 6 small screws on the backplate and 4 holding the heatsink onto the PCB, surrounding the all-important GPU core. If wanting to, you can also unscrew the top part of the shroud away from the heatsink, making it easy to clean if needed. The heatsink actually has, well, quite an interesting design, which uses 3 flat heat pipes that are sunken into the main block, which make direct contact onto the GPU core and the all-important circuitry, including the VRM ICs, with its exposed copper. Being a 145 watt card, the cooling solution doesn't need to be, I guess, exceptionally beefy and looks to be up to the task of keeping things under control. The backplate, as mentioned, being plastic, doesn't serve any purpose for cooling and therefore also doesn't include any thermal pads of any kind. The PCB is one of the smallest we've had come through our offices, measuring in at 144mm in size, though due to its unique design, that's really only to house the 8-pin power connector, and therefore the bulk of the PCB actually comes in at around 105mm in length. In terms of the power, the card uses a 4+2 power design with Vishay SiC 653ACD-T1-GE3 50A Dr. Moss phases for the GPU core, and uses the Alpha and Omega AOZ 73004 CQI multi-phase controller, while the memory mixes things up a little bit with Sinnoh Power SM7341 EHKPC-TRG dual MOSFETs, which are rated for 24 amps on the first channel and up to 44 amps on the second channel, and are controlled by the GST-KE GS7222 TQ-R integrated IC, but acts as a microcontroller for the memory. Speaking of the memory, there's a total of 4 2GB GDDR7 memory ICs surrounding the upper and right side of the GPU core, and looking at it, well, there's no room for any more, so unlikely that NVIDIA will ever manufacture a 16GB variant without dramatically changing the PCB design. The VRAM modules are made by Samsung and have K4VAF325ZC-SC28 markings. In terms of the thermal paste used, INNO3D have used Dow Corning 5852 paste, like we've seen on other models of cards that we've taken apart in the past from this brand. Now, being a non-factory overclock card, we see stock speeds of 2280 MHz on the GPU clock, with the boost clock sitting at 2497 MHz, whilst the default memory speed sits at 1750 MHz. Obviously, we wanted to see how much further we could take it and ended up increasing the clock speed by a pretty impressive 470 MHz, with an additional 250 MHz or 2000 MHz added onto the effective memory speed, although this could be tweaked further to find something that is more stable in a lot more games. With these new overclocks, we see the GPU clock push up to 2750 MHz with 2967 MHz on the boost, and now with the memory sitting at a solid 2000 MHz. To see how the card performs in an extended gaming session, we ran F124 for an hour to see how things hold up. And at stock, we saw average temperatures around the 71-degree mark on both the GPU core and the memory. The temperatures aren't exactly the coolest, but they're also not really too much to worry about. However, the fans are running fairly quickly here to keep everything in check. But despite the fans hovering around 1950 RPM, they actually remained pretty quiet and couldn't be heard over the rest of the system's fans. In terms of clock speeds, we saw a peak of just over 2700 MHz, but the average was sat much closer to 2680, which is fairly impressive given that the card is merely sipping on power with an average usage of only around 140 watts. When we overclock the card, we do see a few differences, but for the most part we actually saw a surprisingly similar story to stock, with the temperatures actually matching and power draw seeing almost no increase, with only a few watts on average more. Obviously, it goes without saying that the clock speeds have gone up, with the memory seeing its full effective increase, and the core clock now managing to peak up to 3100 MHz during gameplay, and at an average around 3060 MHz, so a pretty hefty boost over stock performance. With the extra power, you would expect to see the fans increasing to keep up with things, but interestingly, we actually saw the average speed of the fans staying pretty much identical to what we saw from our stock results, but now takes slightly longer to reach its peak. Having the stock and newfound overclocks, we obviously want to see how things compare in a smattering of games. So starting things off with a Playtale Requiem, where at 1080p, we see the Inno card falling just short of the Gigabyte Aero 5060, albeit only by 2 frames and with 2 frames less in the lows, so realistically you won't notice a difference here. Overclocking the card does do quite a bit for performance, with it boosting the frame rates up to an average of 89 FPS and lows up to 70, meaning that we see a 7% increase in the averages and almost 8% in the lows, which is a pretty significant uplift and is enough to see the Inno boost ahead of the Gigabyte by 5%, but not enough to see it make any meaningful step closer to the next best performing card in the stack, which is the 9060 XT. Then in Black Myth Wukong, we saw things shift a bit, and we see both the Inno and Gigabyte cards come with identical performance in this game in both the averages and the lows. Where we do start to see some improvements though is overclocking, and once again we see some pretty impressive results, with a 9% improvement in our average frame rate and another 9% in the lows. With this overclock, we also see the Inno steps much closer to the 9060 XT, with only a 2 FPS difference in the averages in favour of the AMD card. There is another 2 FPS differences in the lows, but this time in favour of NVIDIA, making them, I guess, fairly equal in gameplay experience. Of course though, this could easily change by simply overclocking the AMD card as well to kind of level the playing field. Our final game is Cyberpunk, where we see the INNO3D card taking a bit more of a lead over the Gigabyte, but again it's not by much, with only a single FPS difference in the average and 2 frames more in the lows, making it technically better but nothing noticeable. Overclocking is again where we see the biggest improvements, bringing an 11% improvement over stock in the averages and 10% more in the lows. Interestingly here though, the 9060 XT has seen a pretty significant boost, making the next best performing card now the RTX 4070, which our overclock card falls behind by 6%, which is, I guess, a bit disappointing as you'd hope for much closer results, even from stock. While we're looking at charts and how both RTX 5060s for the most part came within a whisker of each other, we decided to make a chart to compare the peak temperatures of both the INNO3D and Gigabyte card to see how they differ in their cooling. And, well, there really isn't much to say here. The core temperature and the memory temperatures were, well, consistent between all tests on the Inno card for both the stock and overclock performance, with the peak temperatures reaching 73 degrees. The Gigabyte card did come in cooler than this, with a 15% drop compared to the Inno, with, again, the core and memory temperatures matching here, making the Gigabyte card cooler across the board. So, whenever I look at an INNO3D Twin X2 card, I always find myself saying the same thing. It's a no-frills option. It's not the flashiest card on the market, but it delivers on its performance of being a cost-effective solution. That's not a bad thing, because it establishes a clear brand mantra for INNO3D. Value for money. With no Founders Edition for the RTX 5060, you're in a situation where if you're set on buying one, you have to look at an AIB card. And INNO3D has definitely delivered a compelling option that gives you the best of what's to offer for a good price. When it comes to gaming performance, the Twin X2 proves that you don't need a huge, overbuilt card to get the job done. It consistently stayed in the realm of performance as its competition, the Gigabyte Aero, making it, well, a very strong performer for the price. While they traded blows in our benchmarks, there is more to it, as it did offer up some strong increases and impressive gains thanks to its overclocking headroom, and that helps to just strengthen it as a strong choice if looking for an RTX 5060. Now, in terms of cooling and design, the card really does show off its focus on being function over flash. Its compact dual-fan design is a perfect fit for most applications, particularly for those who want to build a small form-factor PC. Temperatures were good and comparable, and showed that it was up to the task without being over-engineered by making smart, what I would class as justifiable choices, like having a plastic backplate, which didn't hamper cooling, and that simple design. And all of this together means that we have a card that performs where it matters most without adding unnecessary cost. Ultimately, I guess the Twin X2, you could say, is a strong option for the budget-conscious gamer. It isn't just an MSRP card in name, it is actually available for that price point, and that is its biggest strength. I guess for a first-time builder or a gamer looking to get into PC gaming, this card is the perfect gateway. It provides access to all of NVIDIA's latest features and powerful 1080p performance in, well, a no-nonsense package. If you're looking to upgrade from older hardware or you're dead set on getting an 8GB card, I think it's an excellent choice. Though, and I have to be honest, it's still an 8GB card. And in 2025, that will still put a dampener on things. But if that's all your budget permits, and, well, the 5060 is the GPU core for you, then yeah, I think this is actually a really, really good option in a small, clean, tidy package. So there you have it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And if you love what we do, we've got a Patreon where you can support what we do, well, getting access to some really cool added extras, including behind-the-scenes content, a super special area on our Discord, and so much more. The link is, as always, down below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.